everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hard Hats and High Tech, the podcast from RIB Software, where we discuss the ins and outs of the construction process. I'm your host, Bernardita Calzon, talking to you from my office in Santiago de Chile. And I'm really happy to introduce you to today's guest, Jatin Sharma, who is joining us to discuss the pivotal role of collaboration between seasoned veterans, tech companies, and the tech-savvy younger generation. Hi, Jatin, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today. Would you like to get started by giving the audience a little bit of insight into who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So, you've already spoke about my name. My name is Jatin Sharma. At the moment, I serve as a senior manager for customer success at RIB Software here in Australia. At the moment, I'm in Brisbane, and it's just about to turn nighttime. And so,
Oh,
my big goal at the moment in my role is to really focus on creating strategic frameworks to drive customer retention and advocacy for all of our SaaS solutions. So before my time here, I spent close to a decade working across the APAC region with industry giants, helping to really define, design, and implement strategies that drive digital transformation in the AEC industry. So this is a topic I'm really, really passionate about. I spoke about it at FCon earlier this year, because really in my journey, like I say, almost close to a decade now, it's been crystal clear to me that the future of our industry, our AEC construction industry, really hinges on bridging experience with innovation. So, as you know, at the moment, we're among like one of the slowest industries when it comes to digital adoption. And me personally, I think one of the biggest barriers, other than the typical financial implications, is digital skill gap. So it's for me, when I was investigating and doing some data before my IFCON presentation, it was scary to think some of the data that I found. I'm not sure whether I think it's between 15 to 20% of our current workforce here in Australia. I can't speak for the world, but in Australia, 15 to 20% of our workforce are 55 years and above.
wow.
And so it's scary to think for me that if we don't capture their expertise, insight, what they've learned in the field for the upcoming generation, we're going to lose that forever. So, you'll have a generation that's coming in who might have technical skills, but how do we transform that skill into a tool that actually helps solve practical on-site challenges? Sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded explanation, but for me, it's a topic I'm really, really passionate about.
I mean, I know you have a lot of experience in the industry, so I think you're the perfect person for this episode. So should we get started?
Yeah, I'd
Um,
love to. Let's crack into it.
okay. So we have seasoned veterans, innovative tech companies, and the young generation of professionals. How would you describe the unique value each of these groups brings to the construction industry?
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. So I'm going to start with the seasoned professionals in construction, because they have a soft spot in my heart. They really have unmatched expertise. That's kind of the first thing I think about when I think about seasoned professionals in construction. They have valuable or invaluable experience that's been, honed through years, decades of practical knowledge and really proven problem-solving skills, right? They're the best people who can provide that crucial practical mentorship for the upcoming generation when it comes to understanding the concept of constructability on real live jobs. And again, they make up approximately 20% of the workforce, which means if you're a construction organization and you're thinking, well, how do I devise a digital transformation strategy? What do I think about having a data governance strategy to achieve your business goals? It's likely there's a significant portion of these stakeholders in your organization who need to be an active part of that adoption process for you to be successful. We have younger professionals, the new generation coming into construction who are, they're a breed that thrive on digital fluency and creative problem solving. So they'll be coming in, having used the latest and greatest software, whether it's in university or we like to call it TAFE, as almost like a trade school here in Australia, and they'll be using technology well before they get into their first job site. And they'll come in with a mindset where they're always thinking, how can I be more efficient? How can I get the best bang for my buck while I'm on site and keep driving processes? And then finally, you have tech companies, right? And we have a immense presence and influence in terms of bringing on innovative solutions into the market, constantly trying to drive engagement and new practices to help with digital transformation. But I think it's important to call it out. Not everyone in our industry has got that formula right when it comes to driving adoption on site. And for me, I think it's really important to acknowledge that, right? Because if we did have all the answers and if we did get everything right, then we possibly wouldn't be the second slowest industry in terms of tech adoption.
So there's still a lot of work to do in that sense.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like from what you're telling me, each of these groups brings like a vital element to the table. So how do you see digital transformation fitting into this dynamic, and how can it really improve construction productivity?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, hey? If companies can solve that yesterday, then we would be up and away. So, okay, so I'm thinking to myself, so I really love food. Everyone loves food. I love food. So what I'm gonna try and do, I'm a huge foodie. So I'm gonna try and reframe this topic a little bit in a way that removes as much of the jargon as possible, just so I can kind of help set the scene. So let's think about digital transformation like running a high-end restaurant where you need innovation and you also need experience. So, that younger, savvy team, if you're managing your high-end restaurant, might, come in and bring cutting-edge tools and techniques. They might come in with expansions around having a smart oven or high-tech gadgets, which, really promise to make things faster or fancier, and that's great. You need that. But when things go south or when things go wrong, like, key ingredient is missing, the oven starts breaking, or there's a surprise rush of customers, everyone looks to the seasoned chef who steps up and keeps everything together, right? So because the chef is not just following a recipe, they know how to fix things on the fly. Maybe they tweak a dish to work with what's left in the pantry. Maybe they adjust the timing when the equipment acts up. And it's really this experience that keeps everything running smoothly, even when the unexpected happens. And in digital transformation, the seasoned pros are essentially that chef. And we know in construction, right? A big mantra is always expect the unexpected. You never know what you're going to get on a job site. Things can happen, and they can happen quickly. And we're talking about, in my example, dishes, but in reality, we're talking about buildings, right? That house people. We're talking about bridges that hold up roads and cars need to go past. And so we need these amazing people, these amazing seasoned professionals. We need them to help us understand how to make the innovative technology work in the real world and be a part of that journey so they can help solve those unexpected problems as they pop up. So, they can take the latest tools that perhaps the younger generation is influencing and fit them into the existing systems and processes to make sure everything works seamlessly. And the key is it works seamlessly even under pressure, right? And it's that expertise that we need, which will turn, our products, our tech tools into real solutions that get results, no matter, what curveballs the job site might throw at them. So I hope that helps. I really like food, so I thought I'd give a little food analogy.
No, it was a really good analogy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. But okay, so you're telling me the role of these professionals in the digital transformation, but what about technology? What would you say is the role of technology or how it benefits the digital transformation?
Yeah, so uh, I mean, technology is quite broad, right? And so I, I'm just going to kind of give you an example through phases. So, I mentioned it before, right? Tech companies really need to define their role and level of responsibility when it comes to technology. Are we creating and implementing and creating adoption practices that just replicate the existing manual work that's been done on site, but just digitizing them? Or are we actually creating solutions that, creating solutions and also a program associated with the solution that actually innovates the way that people do work at the moment, right? That's a real big distinction. So if it's just stopping at that replication phase and just digitizing an existing workflow, yeah, sure, you might get some initial uptake quite quickly because it's not too much change management, but are you really helping drive transformative practices through a outcome focused framework? Are you really, helping companies and helping people achieve better outcomes, or are you just taking information that's on paper into a computer, which is still good, but are you really helping people, right? So I think that's just something that we have to be really mindful about when we're trying to inject solutions. And we're getting better. Slowly over time, we're starting to listen to our customers, which includes people on site. We're trying to create products that are user friendly. People can adopt them quickly. But I think more important than the solution, it's really important we think about how we are devising a program to help these companies actually adopt our innovative solutions. I think that's actually a bigger piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so it's not just about developing a product, it's to actually bring value to the customers and solve their needs. Or that's what I understand from what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you, if you want to keep, I mean, it's kind of straightforward when you think about it, but amazingly complex when you try to put it into practice, right? You're trying to um, put a solution into the market that you think will help the industry. You get positive feedback around your solution, but you just have to be careful if that positive feedback is just influenced by easier change management, but doesn't actually derive better outcomes. Or if yes, there's a bit more pushback, but what you're actually trying to do is really going to disrupt the industry. And I think when you believe you've got a solution that you feel is going to disrupt the industry, it's important to have the right program around it. And it's also important to bring everyone on that journey. And and quite often the first people that get left behind is the seasoned veterans. Uh, if you think about it. So we kind of always come full circle. So for me, that's really important, even more than the solution.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit to the seasoned professionals. So
Mhm,
I know like you said, their experience is like a crucial element in maybe mixing these new technologies with traditional construction practices, but
mhm.
I'm sure this process is not without challenges. So what are some challenges that you have encountered when integrating these two worlds?
Yeah, I think so. I found a couple of things that have worked really, really well for me. And they all start with trust, and it also starts with active listening and bringing everyone on that journey. So a really good strategy that's worked well in the past is encouraging experienced construction workers. If you want them to adopt these digital tools, yes, it can be challenging, but you can, use the younger workers to help advocate on your behalf and help advocate on their behalf to make that transition easier. So one effective strategy is highlighting how tech simplifies their work. And this is where the younger workers can help because they're quick to pick up, what we're trying to accomplish. And they're often more familiar with these tools than even us sometimes, right? Because they're actually trying to apply it on the field. And so they can help the experienced team understand how, apps or drones can actually save time and make tasks less tedious, right? Because if I come into a job site, I haven't formed a relationship with any of these seasoned professionals, and they have a set way of working, which has worked for them in the past, right? Like I say, they're producing deliverables. So why should they trust me, right? And so you've got to bring the younger people on and use them as a catalyst to build that trust with those seasoned professionals. And I think that's when you can take that next step. Um, once you kind of have that, I call it cross mentorship. Once you have that cross mentorship going, you can. I think another element really is hands-on training. So again, younger workers, tech organizations can really lead by example, offering practical demonstrations and support on site. The work happens on site, the difficulties happen on site, and the more we can do to support on-site practices, the better. And also involving, so let me take a step back. So typically, especially when you go through that buying process, you might be a construction organization talking to a tech company and vice versa. Quite often, one group gets left a little behind throughout that decision-making process. And it's really important to involve both experienced and younger workers in the process. Like, some cycles, when you go through the process of figuring out if a solution is a good fit or not a great fit for your organization, sometimes the full trust will be based on seasoned professionals, and sometimes it will be fully this younger team that understands technology better, and then we're letting the younger team translate everything back to the older generation. But like, I don't think that's the right way. I think you have to have a healthy mix of both throughout that entire process of choosing and adapting the tools to help bridge your digital transformation gap. And that will help your experienced professionals feel more confident, because then they can see how the tech is actually fitting into their existing workflow. You imagine, I can't emphasize this enough, right? You think about your job, you think about my job, we come into work every day. If you've been doing it for a long time, you know everything about your role, the ins and outs like the back of your hand. You feel like there's no challenge you can't handle, right? And it's the same for these veterans. They come in and they know it like the back of their hand. But as soon as there's a small change, you put new tech in their hand and they weren't even part of the decision making process, suddenly everything shifts, and now they're defensive and they're on the back foot because you've got a 22, 23-year-old, perhaps in their mind, doing a better job than you at your job. But that can't be possible because you're the expert, but you don't feel like an expert because something has changed. So I just think that's really important. It's really important, and it comes back to collaborative environment, active listening, and making sure that the whole team is part of that adoption journey, and that solution engineering process, if you will. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, like you say, it seems like trust is like the keyword here, and also collaboration as always. So involving everyone to make them feel like they are a part of the process and that they tackle this challenge of resistance to change, which I know it's like a huge thing in construction. Okay, but let's move away a little bit from seasoned veterans and talk about a little bit of the younger professionals. How do you see them reshaping the industry, and what do you have to say about them?
Yeah. So the younger generation are like they're the catalyst. that's how I like to think about it. They're really the catalyst in establishing trust. We spoke about trust before with the older generation, and they have a high level of digital fluency, and they've come in with construction knowledge, right? They've come from an apprenticeship if it's on site. They've come from university. If it's more of an office role, TAFE here in New Zealand, here in Australia, excuse me, almost like a trade school. They've come from a background where they know enough to be dangerous, but not so much that obviously they become the authority. And I think it's about helping them become more confident in establishing a deep relationship with the older generation. I think tech companies can play a really good role in that as well, in the way that we do programs or events. And for me, I think a big thing that the younger generation, what will help them is developing that sense of EQ and communication. I have no idea why EQ and communication are considered soft skills. There's nothing soft about them. They're one of the they're really a superpower. But that's something that if we as a collective industry can help them get better at, then these relationships will start to form naturally. I mean, who doesn't want to help other people, right? If it's going to make your job easier, why wouldn't you? But it's just about creating an environment that fosters that, what I like to call cross mentorship. And the reason why I'm saying these things, and I know I'm kind of roundabout answering your question, and I promise I'll drive the point home, is like if because the younger generation come in, particularly through the way that education is provided these days. They come in with a much more inclusive mindset than perhaps what the challenges that would have been experienced in the older generation. They will have come in with fresh ideas, an amazing amount of enthusiasm, right? And like I said, digital fluency, and they're all amazing components, but it's just about providing some form of guardrails for them so they can direct that energy in the right places, right? And I think that is important to acknowledge, because there's going to be no one better to help the seasoned professionals than younger professionals, and there's going to be no one better to help younger professionals than seasoned veterans. And I think there's a level of responsibility I think tech companies should play in that level of cross mentorship by providing the right events, trying to create, that, like, for example, that adoption program where you're incorporating both types of demographics in your sessions.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited about this younger generation, and I love that concept that you mentioned called mentorship. It sounds really, really nice that they can learn from each other. So before we finish, I mean, you already said that maybe the advice that you would give to young professionals is to improve their communication skills and this, but what else would you give them as an advice to maybe bridge the generational gap?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so obviously, we talked about building strong relationships, so I won't harp on about that anymore. Although, like I said, I think that's like the biggest thing. And I think COVID has also played a part in that, whether we acknowledge it or whether we have all the data to acknowledge it. But I feel that that's definitely kind of put like some form of factor in terms of how we engage with people. I think people are relearning how to develop that relationships again.
Yeah.
And I think it's also about helping the younger generation perhaps understand that technology can do a lot. Yes, taking my tech company hat off, technology can do a lot, but it's really the knowledge and expertise that keeps project grounded in reality, right? So it's about, I would say, take the time to understand practical on the ground challenges they face. There's a story I want to quickly share on that. So I was working as a as a waterproofing consultant for a company that essentially sold waterproofing products, right, for buildings. And it's not until they took me to site for a week where I actually had to
Mm.
install some of these waterproofing membranes that I really appreciated what the subcontractors went through. And you think you know because you read the books, you read the material, but take the time because it's just really eye-opening. I would also say be patient, be supportive as the seasoned professionals learn. Take on that mentoring role, right? So part of that mentorship that you're providing to seasoned professionals is to be patient, be supportive, and please respect the value of their experience, right? So you know, try not to dismiss some of the comments that might come across as challenging or not relevant to what you're talking about, but there's still it's a reaction to what you're trying to accomplish, right? And there may be some golden nuggets in there for you to be aware of. And I think, like I say, if you can help your company, your organization that you're part of, combine your expertise with your tech skills with the seasoned professionals, if we talk about impact, I mean, you can make a huge impact, and it's all about mutual respect, and it's all about collaboration to bridge the gap and drive that innovation together.
I think that's a really good advice. I mean, in the end, it's about joining forces to really achieve our goals. So, well, I learned a lot from this conversation. Thank you so much. It really looks like you're passionate about it, and I love that. So, thank you very much. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. And we will be back with another episode very soon. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. Cheers.